Hi, it's me, and I am bringing you the midweek Wednesday Astro Witter. And I'm going to have a look at what's happening today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and our grand finale of the full moon lunar eclipse on Sunday. And I hope you like the new format. So let's start with today, because today in our Astro Witter we have Mercury, newly arrived in Virgo, the sign it rules. And Mercury, as you remember, is about communication, thinking. When he's in Virgo, he can be very analytical, very pedantic, so that we might find we're really paying attention to the details. Good time to make lists, sort things out, anything that needs order out of chaos in terms of what you're doing with your brain and what's written in front of you. And of course, it's squaring, which is a challenging aspect, Uranus in Gemini. Uranus, our planet of shock, change, the unexpected. What shocking news might be revealed today? Don't know. Well, I do know, actually. I'm going to tell you about something in the UK, but I'll come to that in a minute. But also, this is just prior to Uranus going retrograde on Friday. But I'm going to come to that a bit later as well. But Uranus, of course, is in the sign that Mercury rules, Gemini. So both the signs that Mercury rules, Virgo, because that's where Mercury is, Gemini, where Uranus is, then this gives him a little bit of the edge. You might even find you have very innovative and shocking thoughts today, quite revolutionary or rebellious, or even to the extent of looking at different ways that you can free yourself up with your time and make the most of what you want to get sorted out whilst Mercury is squaring Uranus. So let's have a think about this. Hang on a minute. George, what's the problem? George, my cat, the one that went missing last year, who thankfully is back in the loving bosom of his family, is meowing over there. And I suspect he's having a chat with Iggy, my other ginger fluff ball, and they are debating or possibly moving into a rather challenging Mercury square Uranus event. So will we see anger today or reaction? Possibly. Let me tell you what's happened in the UK. Some of you will be aware of this, but in the United States and Canada, this will be kind of like, really? And that's interesting. Why? But you just have to think of the UK government as a microcosm of the macrocosm of the United States administration. That's the best way to put it. And, in some ways, what happens in the United Kingdom will somehow also play out in the United States. And we may see some startling, surprising news, which is quite challenging, coming out of the United States today. That's a strong possibility. Now, in the UK, Angela Rayner, who is the Deputy Prime Minister, has bought some properties. Now, the problem is, inadvertently, she's managed to omit some important information, I believe, to the taxman, and I may not be 100% correct on this. Anyway, today was the first time since the summer break that the government met in the House of Commons. And so the subject of the Deputy Prime Minister and her slight inaccuracies about the purchase of a property interestingly, down in the part of the world where I will be looking to buy a property. So this is a heads up to me to make sure when I do buy a property, I dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Anyway, she's got something wrong and it's all come tumbling out in Parliament today. It looks like she won't lose her actual head, let's say, but it is causing a parliamentary stir. I think the poor lady is very distressed and upset because she did think this might actually damage her long-term politically. And let's face it, when these stories come out, whichever government it is, it doesn't do anyone any favours. So let's think about that energy with regard to Canada, because I know a lot of you watch me from Canada. And, is Mark Carney going to come out with some interesting information today? Could be some shocking announcements. And then, of course, we have to look to the United States. And will Mr. Carrot Head come out with another piece of fascinating and probably totally inaccurate statements? We will have to wait and see. But this energy, remember, only lasts for 2 or 3 days. So it was around yesterday. It's around today. It's kind of maximum potential. And it'll still be around a little bit tomorrow. So this is interesting energy. And do you know what? I did get it right. Mercury square Uranus. Oh, that's it. Now, then we move on to, because on Thursday, is it? No, the 5th. This is the one. I thought I'd got them muddled up, but I haven't. You see, I'm just breaking myself in gently to these Astro Witters, and I have to make sure that Mercury in Virgo keeps my wittering tight, controlled and concise, so that I don't actually witter too long and lose your attention. Now, 5th of September. So today's the 3rd, 4th, 5th. So that is Friday. Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, the planet that expands everything it touches, the planet that really does bring us wonderful opportunities, except perhaps on Friday. Jupiter is in Cancer. Now, Cancer, of course, rules the home, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So Jupiter likes it here. Jupiter is comfortable here. But it's a square. So I suspect something gets blown up out of all proportion, because guess who Jupiter is squaring? Mars in Libra. Now, Libra, thankfully, is about balance and harmony, so there may not be lasting damage from whatever might erupt. We could say even from today, because actually today on the 3rd, when I'm recording this, there's only a degree apart, so they are already in square. But it becomes exact on Friday, so something might build up into a crescendo of misunderstandings and the kind of situations that make us react really in a sort of way that is completely out of control. And we have to somehow contain that. So maybe what we then have to look at is the fact that, thankfully, and this is where we've got Uranus trining Pluto. Now, this is an ongoing trine, and both Pluto and Uranus are sextiling not only Saturn retrograde in Pisces, newly arrived, but also Neptune still in Aries. And Neptune is now retrograde. This little mini grand trine at the 3rd quarter of the chart. I'm just going to see if I can show you. Oh, hang on a minute. That went well, didn't it? Let's do that. There we go. So there we go. So the trine is that blue kind of looks like a coat hanger at the top. And the square from Jupiter to, what did I say it was? Jupiter to Mars is that big red line that you can see standing out. There's something about this map, this sign, and the way it kind of looks that is almost a little bit disconjunct. They don't somehow link in with each other. And I think that's quite significant, because what I actually feel this means is that in spite of the Jupiter Mars energy being a little bit strident and potentially explosive, that because they are, in a sense, overshadowed by this mini grand trine, it'll just ease the way a bit. It will take the pressure off. Now, because we're going to have this mini grand trine hanging around for us for actually, I'm not even going to tell you how long for, because I can't remember, but it's a long-going, ongoing aspect that we're going to have. Now, we have to bear in mind that every aspect we look at, keep in mind that that mini grand trine is hovering up there, or wherever else it is on the chart, and it is doing its best to almost keep the lid on from anything getting completely out of kilter. So let me just see what else I want to say about this Jupiter-Mars square, because yes, I've got in my notes here, you've got the tension between expansion and action. So it's like you want to go, you want to change, you want to rush, you want to grow. And Mars is saying, but I want to do it now. I want immediate action, immediate changes in the home, immediate changes in my family relationships or my social balance. I want it, and I want it now. And that is the problem, because when we run out of patience, sometimes we make knee-jerk decisions. So this is really guarding against making any of those knee-jerk decisions. So there's the sense of longing that we get with Jupiter in Cancer, the love of home, the feeling of protection of the home environment. And then you've got Mars in Libra, looking for balance and justice and saying, how well balanced is all of this? And Mars will, be fighting for fairness and the harmony, whilst Jupiter is expanding protective instincts. So, it may be if you're a mother with children at school, they're coming home in the first week of school and saying, oh, the teacher did this and did that, or the other child in the class said this, said that. And you're having to be the Jupiter in Cancer, soothing everything, maybe being overprotective and not letting the child work it out for themselves, because how else do they grow? So there's also, I think we're going to feel over the next few days a real surge of energy. It might be too much. We might find ourselves feeling burnt out, because if we get too carried away with that Jupiter-Mars angle, that square, we are going to overextend ourselves, and there is the danger of accidents. So be wary of that. Slow down. And you may know where this falls in your chart. And I think it's important to sort of just bear that in mind if you know your chart well, and look at how you can balance that out. And while I'm talking about charts, remember, if you would like to have a first natal chart with transits reading with me, why don't you check my website out, pennydix.com. And also, I've still actually got some spaces in September. And so you might be able to get a spot in a couple of weeks' time. So that can't be bad. Let's just have a look and see what else I've got written down here. Yes, that's the other thing we can get with Mars squaring Jupiter in Cancer: family arguments, family disputes. And it is really that we've got to watch out also for overeating and, you know, just overdoing anything that we think is good and nice and kind, because maybe it's, you know, it's what the word that's come into my mind sometimes with people, whether it's friends, whether it's children, loved ones: tough love. It's about not trying to be the overprotective mother, which we can tend to get into with Jupiter in Cancer. We have to let people work things out for themselves. We can show them pointers. We can show them signposts, but we must let the other do the work. So for instance, when you're in a therapy session, the therapist will rarely tell you what to do or say, have you thought of doing this? Or I think you should do that. Because what the therapist tries to do is guide the patient, the client, towards working it out for themselves. Because the only way we change and grow is by working it out for ourselves. Let's move on to, right, Uranus. Uranus goes retrograde on the 6th of September. That is Saturday. And this, of course, is coinciding with the upcoming full moon total lunar eclipse on Sunday the 7th in Pisces. I'll come to that in a minute. Now, Uranus retrograde is, my feeling is when these planets, especially these big outer planets, slow down to a standstill, remember that's visually from our perspective on Earth and not actually what they're doing. But when they slow down, it's as if the energy becomes more highly charged, the energy of what the planet represents. Now, Uranus, as you know, is energy, it's electricity, it's astrology, it's change, it's surprise, it's the unexpected, it's shocks, it's rebellion, it's freedom of speech. And I could go on. And I think that there may be some disruption that happens around the end of the week, thinking of that other aspect we had between Jupiter squaring Mars. And I think that we've got this sense of needing to go within a bit. So if things have gone a little bit haywire at the end of the week and there's been some disputes or falling out with nearest and dearest, slow down. Take Uranus's lead and slow down. Just have some time to go within. You know, Gemini, the sign that Uranus is in, is about the mind. And Uranus here is going to fire us up to the point that we are firing on all cylinders so that it's difficult to process all the perhaps ideas, the innovative, imaginative, inventive ideas that are coming to us. And we'll get tired. So thank goodness sometimes the planets go retrograde, because it means things slow down for us to process and catch up. Now remember, with this retrograde, Uranus is actually going to go all the way back into the sign of Taurus. Now, I don't think it does that, and I'll just get my notes out. I don't think it does that till December. Let me have a look. It goes back in November. So it actually goes back into November on the 9th of November. So it'll be in Taurus, and it will stay retrograde until the 4th of February 2026, when it will go direct. And then it doesn't actually go into Gemini again until the 27th of April. So don't worry about it going back into Taurus, because somebody asked me, oh, my sun is at, I think it was at 19 degrees Taurus. Is this mean I'm going to have Uranus conjunct my sun again? No. In fact, in the book again, Uranus is actually only going back to, where did I say it went direct again? It goes direct. Okay, it only goes back to 27 degrees and 27 minutes. So if you have, let's keep it tight to Sun, Moon, Ascendant, Descendant, MCIC. If you have those points at 27, even 26, maybe 25 degrees of Taurus, and obviously to the end of Taurus to 29, then you may feel the shift of the energy of Uranus returning to Taurus. And I think what it's asking you to do is complete something that you've had the innovative ideas about and has just gone astray. It's giving you a final opportunity to change your whole way of being, Taurus. This is specifically for Sun or Moon in Taurus. It's giving you an opportunity to reinvent yourself and to come out and show the world the amazing person you can be. So, what else do we know about Uranus retrograde? Because, yes, now it's going back into Taurus. So we may see some fluctuations again in the world economy. This may be triggered over the next few months by potentially events that are happening in the outside world. That is quite possible on the world stage. And we may see disruptions to transport, especially aviation, because Uranus rules aviation. And we may see problems and blips, let's call it blips, or even cyber attacks in anything to do with the internet, anything online, because Uranus also governs technology. So we may see some cyber warfare going on. That could be something that is around. And I think what's important to bear in mind is that with with Uranus in Taurus, Uranus is now going to prepare to leave Taurus once it's gone back. And when it leaves, remember, it won't return to Taurus for about another 83 years. So I don't know if anyone apart from babies born now will still be around, which is quite interesting. So just be aware of this energy, and Uranus will show you some new ways to manage your life. It will initiate big change, and that's for Sun Taurus, Moon Taurus, Ascendant in Taurus, Descendant in Taurus, IC, that's at the bottom of the chart on the 4th house cusp in Taurus, or MC, and that's right on the top of the chart, and that's about your public image. So let's finally move on to the 7th of September when we have this full moon lunar eclipse. Now, I've done another, obviously, in-depth look at the full moon lunar eclipse that is happening on Sunday. And that is actually also being uploaded later today. So it might be up before this one goes up, or it'll be up just after this one has been published. So let's continue with the Astro Witter and look just at the headlines of the full moon lunar eclipse. If you do know where your Virgo Pisces axis is in your chart, That's really helpful because that will tell you the area of your life that is being highlighted by the eclipse. And also this will be the area that will be highlighted next year as well. They don't change, I think, until the end of next year, going into 2027. So we have to remember that this full moon is at 15 degrees of Pisces. So once again, if you have a sun or moon at between, let's just give it 2 either way, 13, 14, 15, or 15, 16, 17, it'll affect you. Let's include 18, so maybe 12, 13, 14, because the North Node is actually at 18 degrees, and that's what causes the eclipse. And this is a powerful eclipse. Remember, it talks about bringing to some conclusion something that is long overdue being concluded. Also, it's Pisces, and Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, saying this really has gone past its sell-by date. We need to clear this out. Oh, God, I think the cat jumped into something and it didn't half scare me. Oh, goodness, pussies. Well, actually, that's funny, symbolic, because it was, as I was saying, clear something out. Well, I was thinking, of course, we did discuss on the Monday Live, because it was the month ahead, September, we did discuss the fact that, of course, this is about world leaders. World leaders can fall, become very ill. They can leave this reality and go into spirit, and it can be heads of government, but now the energy of an eclipse lasts usually for about 6 months. So we may not actually see something on the day, although sometimes when it's around a significant change to do with an important figure, it will happen more or less on the day. Now, what I've got, which I thought would be interesting, I've got no word of the day or quote of the day. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be doing them. I still might do them. What I decided to give you this time is just a quote for each of the 12 signs for us to reflect what this lunar eclipse might be about. So let's start with Aries. I'm not going to timestamp them because I will whiz through these in about 30 seconds. So Aries, sometimes courage is not charging forward, but allowing yourself to be carried by the tide. Moon in Pisces. Taurus, what you release now is not loss, but the fertile ground where new roots will grow. And then we've got Gemini, which is when the chatter fades, you discover the quiet wisdom that has always lived within. And that also fits in with that retrograde Uranus. And then we come on to Cancer. Let the past dissolve into memory. The ocean of love will carry you where you belong. That's nice. Leo is true radiance is born not in holding on, but in shining through change. Virgo, surrender the need for perfection. The universe is weaving patterns more subtle than you can see. Libra, in endings, we find the balance of the scales, and release will restore your harmony. Scorpio, every eclipse is a rebirth. Let the shadow fall so the soul may rise renewed. And then we move on to Sagittarius. The horizon expands when you trust the current, not when you cling to the shore. Capricorn. Strength lies not in control, but in the grace to let time reshape the mountain. And Aquarius, we have when old circles dissolve, new constellations of belonging appear. And finally, of course, my oceans of emotions, Pisces, this is your baptism. Release, forgive, and return to the vast ocean of the soul. Ooh, very deep. So, there we go. That was the first of the Wednesday Astro Witters. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And remember, if you do want to have a session with me, go to pennydix.com and email me on penny@pennydix.com, and we'll have a little chat and we'll sort out when we can meet. And what else did I want to say? I want to say, yes, so this Sunday, we will be back to the normal time on Sunday for the weekly, it's going to be a weekly astrological Witter review. So I will look at the first half of the week and vaguely at the rest of next week. So I will look at that. And what else we got? So the full moon's coming out a bit later today. And have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful second half of the first week of September. And let's see how it all unfolds. And thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I think you're all awesome. Okay then, I'll stop wittering. Bye for now. Bye.